Welcome back to the Authority X Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht. And in my book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, I share that building a personal brand isn't about ego, it's about service. It's about taking what you've learned the hard way and offering it to the people standing where you once stood. Today's guest is the living embodiment of that mission. Beth Trejo is the fearless founder and CEO of Chatterkick, a social media agency that is intentionally doing things differently. While many in the digital space are chasing vanity metrics and impressions, Beth has become a leading voice for human first digital strategy. She's a powerhouse keynote speaker, which I want to dive into selfishly, Beth. I want to learn from you there. A podcaster and a multi year honoree on the top 50 CEOs for women list. But what makes Beth a true authority isn't just her expertise in AI and LinkedIn branding, it's her commitment to opening doors for women in tech and proving that you can build a nationally recognized agency while prioritizing culture and family. Today, we're going to talk about how she moved from doing social media to becoming a visible champion for working parents and female entrepreneurs, and how she uses her own Authority X Factor to make the digital world feel a lot more human. So, Beth, that's my long intro, but I want to start with
Fabulous. Thank you.
I want to start with the Authority X Factor. So, uh, I define your Authority X Factor as the unique skills and experience that you have. We all take, not all, but oftentimes we take our experiences for granted. For me, that was, I worked in publishing for many years, and I finally realized that I knew things about writing a book and publishing a book that people didn't know, right? And we take that for granted. And people who really hone in on that are able to really work well with their clients, grow their business because they really understand what makes them unique. What should they be going out and speaking on? What are those topics that they're best able to help people with? So, Beth, all of that said, how would you define your authority X factor?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important to me and a truth that I really believe because I've seen it firsthand, not only in my business, but in so many of the other businesses that we've had the privilege to work with, is that relationships and human connection
Yeah.
still can build and grow and support businesses using some of these tools like social media and that digital ecosystem has expanded, but the relationships and the human connection piece of it is so important, and even more so probably today with AI in the mix, that we need to hold a piece of that very close to our chest as business owners and leaders. And I think that we've figured out how to leverage these tools so that they can really be a benefit and not just a time suck on your business.
Yeah, yeah. So I totally agree with you. I often that will come up when you're talking about, I talk on personal branding and thought leadership. And so AI will come up as, how is that how can you use AI? Or, one of the things I talk about often is that your personal brand is so important now because of AI, that having that personal brand, going out and speaking like you do, really makes you stand out because anyone can write content
Yeah.
using AI, right? But AI can't replace you on a stage, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, in the intro, I talked about the doing social, being the social media person, doing social media, right? Um, I, how did you go from being I do somebody's social media to owning a large company doing much more than just writing some social media content pieces, but really turning that into a bigger offering?
Yeah, so I actually didn't come from the agency space. And even my path through marketing was really PR focused. And I was at a chamber of commerce. So probably the opposite of a digital network, but it really is if you take away all the technology, I mean, that is as much of a social network as you can get, just an offline version of it. And so I went out and I was talking to a lot of businesses. And I just, on behalf of the chamber, I would ask them, like, how can I help? And I would hear their problems. And I started parsing together those problems and saying, hey, I think I know how I could solve this or help you with this. Or I think you need to let people know that this is what you do. And so after hearing those problems and understanding just how much relationships could matter to business growth and in so many different categories. I mean, within our community, there was manufacturing companies that have a very different business model than the business on Main Street. And so, really understanding what that plug and play looked like and how I could help use those tools. Again, this was 15 years ago almost, to really leverage the and unlock business growth. So I
Yeah.
think that helped a ton, just not coming from that space. So I was building it like I wanted it. And when I started the business, I was like, well, this is what I would want. And even you mentioned like the culture piece of it for Chatterkick. When I started the business, I had a baby at home and I found out I was pregnant right after I quit my job. So I was trying to build a business and go through pregnancy, happened to be a complicated pregnancy, and tried to understand management as my kids are growing up, like all of these things that I saw in front of me that I'm like, well, if I had this barrier, other people do too. And if I have the power, can I eliminate or reduce that friction and barrier for other people that come after me? And so that's kind of how I've approached the company and business growth of just, what is the better way? Could there be a better way? And is a no because that's just what we've done in the past, or is the no because there's actual barriers there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. I didn't know that about your journey. So you were working in a space where you were like you said on the PR side. And then I love that like how you talked about just I just was asking people, how can I help? Like, well, how can I be helpful? Right. And then kind of developing kind of your next plan or whatever from that, right? So did you know that you were going to start a company? Like,
Oh
did you
no.
leave your job? No, you just
Well, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, and I would work with entrepreneurs out the chamber. But I mean, if you would have asked me at that time, and even I probably would kid myself today what my risk tolerance was, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't like to take a risk." And it just so happened that I had met another friend through a young professionals network locally in town, and he had started multiple businesses. And he had approached me about maybe being a commercial real estate developer, and that really wasn't my passion, but I'm like, "But I have an idea." And he's like, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it." And I was like, "Okay." So, I that's when I left my job at the chamber and, decided, I mean, it was within a couple of months' time that I was gonna start a business. They were gonna help me figure out the business side of it, and I was gonna go get customers, and it came fast. I mean, we had, I think, 6 or 7 customers within a month's timeline, and when I say we, it was me and, they were helping me in the back end, but, really had to figure it out along the way.
yeah, yeah. How big is your team now?
So we're about at 20.
Okay.
I've we have a couple of, people that are part-time and support team members, but yeah,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
at that size for, a while now, and we're totally remote across, all over actually, country and world, and yeah, I have an awesome team behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I admire you. One of the things that I've noticed over the last year, talking a lot about thought leadership and personal branding, a lot of times, I have women in the audience who come to me and they want to do what they want to do what I teach, right? And I've just noticed this pattern of they're very small businesses. It's typically one woman, running her business, small budget. It's just, more like consulting. And you had this, I mean, you've grown this company, this agency now. Did you didn't set out to be an entrepreneur? Did you how did you get over that? I think that it's as women, we see ourselves often as like support people and we don't see ourselves as bigger. And I think that's why I think we hold ourselves back. So how did you struggle with that at all? Or like how did you get to that point of like, I need to hire people, I want to grow an agency, I don't want to be a solopreneur?
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted I didn't just wanna have this be a one-person show, right? And, even if I look back, a lot of this was I was so young, so a lot of the, just, like, cluelessness in what I was doing was also because I didn't have a lot of, like, um just care. I was just like, no one's gonna say no to me. Like, I'll do this, whatever, right? So I think that did help me a lot. But the other thing that I've noticed is I have surrounded myself with really good people. Like, it's of all my superpowers, picking good people from a friend perspective, I picked a great spouse. Like, I do think that that has been something that's been really valuable because, it allows me to do the things that I'm the best at and support with the things that I'm weaker at. But again, they allow, me to shine in that environment. So that has really been helpful. I also think that I didn't even realize how male dominated the agency space was because there's
Yeah.
a lot of women in marketing. There's not a lot of women in agency ownership.
Yep.
And so that was something I didn't realize until I got a little couple years in. I'd go to conferences and it would be all guys and
Look
me.
around the room and
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would be like, I'm always wearing bright colors or something, and I'd be like the hot pink in the sea of, like,
Yep.
gray hoodies, and so I think that did come fast, and the comments and the subtle, like, you know, just under your breath things that people say to you, like, they do sting and they do hurt, but they also kind of make me mad enough to go faster and be better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that about you because yeah, like I said, I've seen that pattern. It's not something like you. I mean, I got to a point in my career, not as an owner, but just in my career where I looked around and I was like, "Oh, it's all men at the leadership table and
Yeah.
me," right? And then when I started my agency, same thing. I mean, I go to events and it's often very dominated by male owners. But then I've also seen when I go out and speak that like it's women are own businesses. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
often happen to be very small businesses, and I don't know if it's because they don't see themselves as bigger or they just, purposely like, you talked about starting your business when you were pregnant, had a small child, and so sometimes it's like it's just easier to keep things small because it allows you to then have that flexibility in the home, but I love that you, saw something different for yourself and you went for it without even, without hesitation. Um, so talk about the providing of services. So when you were tasked with going out and bringing in clients, were you also the one serving those clients at the time, or were
Yes.
you then handing off that work?
No, I was doing it all. And I actually was talking to one of my employees who hadn't been there in the beginning the other day and I was like, I don't know how I did that because we had some clients that had like hundreds of social profiles. And I did have tools and technologies, but I was writing everything, I was responding to things and I did bring in an intern fairly early on and like some copywriting support. Um, but it primarily still was me. And I had the fortunate situation where because I had been meeting businesses for, 3 years prior to that, most of our customers came in to us because they knew me. I had made kind of that thought leader like, I had already been preaching about social media, through my work with the chamber, so that made everything so much easier in the beginning because I was fully prepared to, but I wasn't cold calling.
Yeah. Yeah. What are those services that you provide now? So you were bringing them in, kind of with that, like, social media
Mhm.
hook at the beginning, but you do
Yeah.
much more than that now. So what are the things that you do, help your clients with?
Yeah, so our main core services are still really focused on the expertise we have in social. So that is bigger than just one thing, right? So everything from organic, paid, influencers, creators, ambassadors, thought leadership, executives. So that category is pretty broad, but that really is our foundation. We do like small business Squarespace websites as well because oftentimes our social team or clients needed somewhere to send their businesses,
Yeah.
or send their, traffic, and
Yep.
then, we also do training and consulting. I think that's a little bit different than, like, a lot of social agencies because, we can either do it for you or help you understand how to do it, because some teams just need a little bit of support and they don't need the full system.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. So that gives us the overview of what you do now.
Yeah.
How did you get from the point of I'm doing all the client work to now I am bringing in team members who are doing that client work and my role is kind of the more of the oversight of the company. How did you get mentally to that point of being able to make that shift?
So I think hiring my first employee was full time was probably one of the biggest, like, scariest things that I did at that moment because, you know, you are just hoping that you don't disappoint people, your customers,
Yeah,
your employee, making sure you hit payroll. Like all of those things were really scary. But I will tell you, it was the smartest thing I ever did because you can't do it all. And you probably are hiring or thinking about hiring way too late. You know, you should have done this before because what you forget about and what you miss is the opportunity cost you're losing by being
right,
tied to the work itself. And
right.
so being able to do the things that are higher value, most people know it, but how many people actually do it and are willing to invest that money? Because when you invest that money into an employee, you're actually investing it in yourself because that means that that open space is for you now, and that's scary, and I think that's even scarier for, you know, anybody that's ever been told that they weren't enough or, you have, like, all those, like, demons in your head that you're trying to overcome, but
Yeah,
that really did make a huge difference for me of just, like, hiring my first employee, hiring my second employee, and then when we had a team of about 3, we were rock stars, like, we were rocking and rolling, and I totally believe in the power of, small teams, because it was crazy at times, but we had fun, we got close. It was kind of that startup world. We were all young and, could kinda make our own rules.
yeah. How do you, so you said that you would or you said that people often wait too long to hire. So how do you know when it's time to hire? Like what indicators can you use to make that decision?
Well, fortunately for us, our revenue model was on a recurring revenue model, which makes it a little bit easier because I could at least see some runway in the future of like, okay, we're gonna have enough business coming in that we can support a team member. But I think, if you don't have that, that's even a little bit more um nerve wracking. And I don't know if there's a clear-cut answer, except there are a lot of businesses that have done this before. Find a peer group, find a mentor group. I could never have grown this business if I didn't have people around me that have done this before, that I could bounce my personal situation off of, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, this is the time."
Yeah. Yeah. I so do you remember how like at what point you had hired your first employee?
Yeah, so she started as an intern. And I think so I started the business in February. I think it was by December that
Okay.
we had gone full time, I
Okay.
think.
Okay. Yeah.
Or it could have been the next year, but I think it was that first year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was fortunate when I started, I had a couple of, people in the Philippines who
Mm,
I was able to bring on. One was a high level person in the
mhm,
Philippines, but still a lot cheaper than people in the
mhm,
United States. And then I went through a period of, like, probably around that same timeline that you mentioned, like, in the first 9 months of the business or so,
mhm.
I within 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I hired, like, 7 people.
Oh my goodness.
And it was complete chaos,
Yeah.
like but when you said, like, people often wait till it's too or not too late, but, like, wait too long to hire, that's what I was just like, "Whoa," like, I was, like, running around like
Yeah.
crazy and, like, hired a bunch of people, and then it was just complete chaos from there because it's like, you not everyone that you hire is gonna work out, you're gonna have
Yeah.
some issues, and you're trying to train people, and then, it was complete chaos, so, yeah, one thing I tell myself, if I could go back, I would have hired, more intentionally, strategically, like,
Yes.
early on, but then, like, figured out what I need. Instead, I got to this point of chaos and was like, "Now I need multiple people for things, and now it's more chaos, right? So, yeah, that was
And
definitely a learning lesson.
And I think, like, hiring is a skill that I didn't even realize about. I just thought, "Oh, I could find people, the right people."
Right,
And, different levels of talent is a very different experience, and different, geographic locations, culture matters. I also started a business in the Philippines. Well, I started a business in the Philippines. This was, like, a couple years in, and it was a great learning experience as well, but I had not had a lot of management experience. I had very little documentation, no manuals, no training guides. So I was fortunate enough that that person who, was an intern, and even my hires after that, um, were physically with me so that we could have dialogues and troubleshoot. If I would have hired remotely at that point, I would have been a hot mess because I didn't have enough, like, training or experience to be able to manage people in that
right.
regard.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Um, so, now you mentioned, like, kind of early on, your role was to bring in clients, and
Yeah.
now that's also still a big part of your role, right? Like, you're going out, you're speaking. I don't know if you have a salesperson on your team, but
Yeah.
you're largely responsible for that as the owner. So what for one, how did you come from a PR background, so, like, you knew you had to get out there, right? Like, you knew that from the beginning, but, like, how did you, know that, like, that was the key to, like, bringing in clients, like, getting out there, developing your thought. I mean, it really you are a thought leader in the space. Like, how did you start doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, I always enjoy talking with people, and, like, I just, love conversations. In the beginning, I think it was more of a, "Let me just get out and, like, talk to people and help understand what, we do and what the problems were." As I've gotten farther along in my journey, I mean, I have a salesperson that does 99% of all the sales.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I am fortunate in the sense that, like, I can go and have conversations with people, I can speak, but it doesn't have to be a direct business development experience. Sometimes I speak, a lot of times I speak because I feel like it's a little learning lab that I can actually get out and talk to business owners that, will tell me their problems and I can understand, okay, this is how I would solve them, or this is what service line I need to develop. So I use speaking a lot for that anymore. But someone gave me this advice early on, and I really believe it, and it sticks with me. For thought leadership and speaking specifically, you're either free or extremely expensive. And I, what I interpreted that it as is, you need to give a lot before you expect anything. And you
Yes.
need to add value before you even think that you're going to sell to the audience, because you never know. You never know, that small business might go to a big business, and then all of a sudden that is your connection into an opportunity. Or you may talk to someone and nothing happens. And so I think there's so much expectation that people have when they put themselves out there that it's going to be this immediate return. And the reality is it's very micro. There's a
Yeah.
lot of touch points needed. And again, you're building a relationship with audiences, with an individual. It takes time, and it's more nuanced than
Yeah.
just tell me something once.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's true. It's a long game, the speaking thing. Like, people who don't know this world, like, they see that I speak a lot, and so they're like, "Oh, do you get paid to speak?" It's like, "No, no, no." I go out and speak to get clients,
Yeah.
right? But, like, it's not I'm on a stage today and I have a client tomorrow. It's the PR around it, right? Like, so being able to show that I'm out speaking, that I'm an expert on this topic. And I love what you said about the learning lab thing, because that's what I learned last year. My very first speaking event, I was so excited. I went and, did this, and then I realized, like, oh, not one person in this room is my target audience. Like,
Yeah.
not one person here. But then I went out to the next event, the next event, the next event, and I started noticing a pattern of people were coming to me and asking me questions about personal branding, but they had small budgets. And I realized that while I have an opportunity to reach my target audience at the right events, I also had the opportunity to develop an offering for the people who were truly wanting to hear what I had to say, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where this book and this podcast came about was I wanted to create tools, resources for those smaller businesses where it's like they know that they need to get out there and speak, right? Maybe they have a smaller budget and they don't know how to get from here to there. They want to develop their personal brand, but they need practical resources. And so that's really what I learned in that year was like I need to be able to help people who are at different levels, right? Like so sure, you can hire us and we can do all these things for you, but also here's some resources for you where you are if that's, if you're not ready for that yet. So, yeah, I love that. Um so you go out and speak now and you use that as that learning lab. Um how else does that kind of play into your business or how else do you don't have a book yet, do you, Beth?
No, I don't.
No.
I have thought about it, but I just if I would do a book, it better be damn good. Like, I have to have the topic that I really feel that would be able to stand the test of time and last.
Yeah, I think when you know, and, like,
Yeah.
for me, I actually was just talking about this earlier today. I wrote a book years ago, that I never did anything with. I sat on
Mhm.
it. I think I got, like, 80% of the way there. I could not get over that last, hump. And then last year when I decided to write Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, it was like instant. Like,
Yeah.
I was able to, like all these stories I've been telling in podcasts and things I've been
Mhm.
saying on the stage and what I go out and talk about was like everything just made sense, and I was like, "That's what I was waiting on,"
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
I love that.
yeah. But anyway, so when you go out and speak though, like how are you using that? So you're not responsible for the sales, but you're using that like at the learning lab, but
Yeah.
how else are you using it in your overall thought leadership strategy?
Yeah, so we, um practice what we preach for our marketing. We spend a lot of time with a lot of our team members involved in how are we showing up for our customers, for our employees, for our prospects. And so I don't think that there is one thing that we do that is the golden ticket.
Yeah.
I really think that anybody that says that is probably oversimplifying it unless you have a very, very niche market or product.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is important as we're using social media to build brand and to um, build thought leadership is you really do need some unique angle to come at in order to be interesting. I think people start at a point and then I would tell them go 3 times deeper. Like, go again, go again, go again, right? Like, an example of that is, um, social media is not just an intern's job. Maybe that's a good angle to take, but a level lower than that would be social media is extremely complex and multi-layered and also involves compliance and HR, right? And then you could go one more step lower and you just kind of try to get more specific and more detailed because then you start attracting people that are like in that specific instance and category. And if they can connect with it, then there's a chance they may hire you or even want to have, another conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I want you to think back to those early days. I love that you already like painted that picture for us, but those early days when you started your business, I call it in my book, day one you.
Mhm.
So if you could tell yourself anything, give yourself a piece of advice, your day one you version of you, what would advice would you give yourself at that point?
Um, I think I would give myself the advice to enjoy the ride a little bit, like it's gonna be okay. um, Funny story, I went on day 1 to my office, who I was sharing with a partner, and it was his office that I was going to office out of. And I went to open the door, and I set off the entire building's fire alarm system. So, just because it was like I didn't have a fob or something, and I think about that as like, was that a sign that it was going to be not what I thought it was to start a business? Um, but I think that's what I would tell myself is just slow down a little bit, look around side to side, and enjoy the ride.
Well, so that was your day when you and I'm still fairly new in my business, so I love this question because it's like I'm getting a little bit of advice for myself.
Yeah.
I It's hard. It's hard to enjoy the ride, but I will try to remember that. So thank you. Well, Beth, we will link it to Chatterkick, your
Yeah, thank you.
website, in the
Mhm.
show notes. But how else can listeners or viewers get in touch with you, find out more about you, and maybe book you to speak?
Yeah, so, Beth at Chatterkick is, my email, and Chatterkick is our handle across all social, and my LinkedIn, profile is just Beth Trejo. So it's Trejo.
Great. We will include all those links in the show notes. Beth, thank you for coming on and sharing your authority X factor with us and your advice for people who are on this path. So thank
Thank you
you.
so much. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks for watching. My book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, is now available on Amazon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next week.